patients will falsely be flagged with this?
I don't. I think that when it comes to the flags, the way that they work is they're unsolicited. So the algorithms in the program is depending on what the state sets it at.
Okay.
Is what sets that off. And so when it sends that link, what that's allowing is for that pharmacist or that physician to look at it and say, oh, this is, Mrs. Smith was hurt her hip, or was in the emergency room and then had to go to a specialist and then to another specialist. And so that gives a second line of protection for that medical professional to look and see, okay, is this okay, or do we have a problem that we need to address?
Okay. I think people have been falsely flagged in other states, and I want to know what protection is there for law-abiding sick citizens that do get falsely flagged. Because when you work in healthcare, you realize that people don't just have one problem. I take care of cancer patients that have a heart attack, and then the chemo weakens their bones, and then they have a broken leg. And so within 60 days, they could see 15 different doctors and be given 40 different scripts. And somebody will flag them without knowing the full scope of their illness. And so when
Right, so this is, again, it's up to the medical professional that prescribed that medication as to how they want to handle it. And so hopefully if a patient is flagged incorrectly, and the outcome of that would be that their doctor would say, I'm not giving you anything else, then they can work that out with their doctor. But I've not heard.
How long that takes?
I'm sorry?
Do you know how long that takes to become unflagged once you're flagged?
So it's a flag on your latest transaction.
Right.
So and maybe we're talking about two different systems. What system are you talking about that someone was flagged?
I'm talking about PDMP.
Incorrectly.
Yes.
No, I mean but is there a particular state? I mean, maybe their flags are set differently. All of the PDMP programs are very much different in the different states. And so is this that's in the St. Louis County program that?
I'm not sure where they're at. I just know that a patient has been falsely flagged, and it took a very long time, and they ended up on hospice care without pain medicine.
Was it a flag from the system, or a flag, or did the physician say this is an incorrect patient?
That's irrelevant. I just want to know what protection is there, or is there any protection for patients that are falsely flagged? Because I'm a #1 patient advocate. I've done that my entire life, and there's a crisis,
right?
Okay, and it's by willing participants, okay. But you're subjugating every other citizen, law-abiding citizen in the state, to this ridiculous thing that they're going to be.
I disagree that it's ridiculous. I disagree this is a ridiculous thing that 49 other states are doing, and I think that the overall majority of Americans
doing better than us.
But I think we've covered that many times today on Apples to Apples and the opioid epidemic in itself. But when it comes to the flagging system, I think that you have to understand whether you're talking. The system doesn't shut anyone down from getting their medications. This is a call on the medical professional that they make, and they make that call every day. Whether it's today when we don't have a PDMP, that pharmacist, that doctor makes that call with their patient as to whether they're not going to give them more medications because they feel they're being abusive. I mean, that's something that's happening now, and so you have to. That's just that's the difference between medical professionals working with their patients. It's not something that anyone wants to happen, but that's within that patient.
Does happen though.
Well, it does, but but it has nothing to do with a PDMP. That happens now between the patient and the physician.
It has everything to do with the PDMP.
Well, I disagree.
So if a patient is homebound, okay, and they're dependent on their family picking up that prescription, but they've been flagged, they can't get to a physician, what are they going to do?
They have the same workings that they have now.
They're going to suffer.
if the
You're gonna make
pharmacists won't feel
law-abiding
it.
citizens suffer
No,
with this bill.
no, ma'am.
I
If that was
promise you it
happening
will.
in 49 other states, don't you think that we would have heard about it by now? These
Well,
other states
from-
are showing that these are effective. So wouldn't there be a huge outcry if that was a problem in 49 other states over the years that they have been implemented?
Are you depending on media to tell you that? Because I'm sure it's not
No,
getting
the
to
Department
the
of Health and
patients
Senior.
that
No, the Department
suffer and die.
of Health, the National Department of Health, says that these are effective programs. The president, he had an opioid commission come out and said that these are effective programs. So they have been looked at by specialists in these fields, not by you and I, not by patients, by specialists that have looked at these and compared the states apples to apples, and not just started comparing the states. They've looked at all of the different factors that go into this, into effectiveness, and they have said they're effective.
Well, to speak on the bill,
Proceed, lady.
I would urge the body to vote against this bill. I think it is a terrible invasion of privacy, and it really interferes with patients getting the care they need. And it's only a tool, and if I don't have a hammer, I can find something to beat somebody in the head, or, use a different tool. I don't think it's the only tool that will help fix the problem, and I urge the body to vote against it.
For discussion, House Bill 188.